Hey everybody, Shoebox Legends here. Thanks for joining me today for the much anticipated conclusion to my greatest cardboard flip ever. So this is the fifth and final installment of a flip that I pulled off a year or two ago now that absolutely blew my mind. And we're going to look at the final slab that I pulled in with the proceeds. So just to review very, very quickly before we get started, this came to pass because of a Kylian Mbappe soccer card that I picked up shortly after his World Cup win with France in 2018. Watched a lot of that World Cup. Loved watching Mbappe. It was clear to me, as it was to just about every soccer fan at the time, that he was a very special player who was going to go on to have a legendary career, most likely. But anyway, picked up a rookie card of his. It was relatively rare, numbered out of like 50 from a high-end set. I got it for $5 on a buy it now. Just happened to search him on eBay right after the seller had posted this. I knew at the time it was a good buy at $5. I think it was even probably a $50 or $60 card. I was pumped to have it, but kind of stuck it in a box of some soccer cards, forgot about it. Found it about a year or two later when soccer cards were just absolutely exploding during the pandemic, the very beginning of the pandemic, I think it was, or maybe even just before the pandemic. Soccer card boom was in effect. Sold that particular Mbappe card for a hefty sum and decided to use the proceeds to pick up 5 slabbed singles that were just sort of like cards I'd always wanted for my collection, but that I don't always have the funds to pursue. So in the previous 4 installments of this series, we've seen the 1968 Tops Mantle, which was one of my earliest Mantle pickups. I've added a few since then, but a necessary card for a player who I hope to complete a Topps flagship run of. Ditto here with Willie Mays, got his 56 in a 3.5. And this Mantle, by the way, is a PSA 3. These are all like, low to mid-grade cards. That's sort of my jam when it comes to some of these expensive vintage cards, but they look really nice. Also have a Ted Williams out of the 55 Topps release. Nice playing day, splendid splinter there. And then in the last installment, or one of the previous installments, we saw this Mario Lemieux O-Pee-Chee rookie card. And in my personal opinion, maybe the most important hockey card of the 1980s. That's debatable, but a really cool card and one that I'm happy to have as well. So after those 4, today we're going to look at the 5th and final slab. I would have to say this is probably my personal favorite of the 5 that I was able to bring home, and it is the oldest of the 5. It's from the 1950 Bowman release, and this is a very special set to me because it's the set that I got my very first vintage card from when I was about an 8-year-old kid back in the very early 1990s. Still have that card, and that set holds a special place in my collecting heart to this day. And so added a pretty big name from the release, card I never thought I would own growing up, the 1950 Bowman Yogi Berra. Just a beautiful image there. This card, as all of the early 50s Bowman's cards are, in my opinion, is all about the fantastic artwork. I love this shot of Berra in an open field. Some of his teammates roaming around in the background there. Some trees and grass, nice nature scene. He is donning the tools of ignorance here. Some great shin pads, chest protector. His mask is down on the ground next to him there, and he's ready to toss the ball almost right back to you as you're staring at the photograph. So this is one of the more unique paintings that were done for the 50 Bowman release. Really, really enjoy this card. There's just not a whole lot else that I can say about it. He's, one of the premier catchers of all time. Amazingly enough, he was actually a second ballot Hall of Famer. I don't know how you don't make a first ballot Hall of Fame when you've got like double digits in terms of number of World Series championships and multiple MVPs. But Hall of Famer Yogi Berra, and this is in pretty good condition too. It's a PSA 2. Like obviously, I can't afford this card in a PSA 7 or 8 or something like that. It would just be well up into the thousands of dollars. But I was really happy to get this lower grade example. Centering is really important to me, which is something I've mentioned a lot on the channel. in its history here. And this is a pretty well-centered copy of a set that can be tough on centering. It's not notoriously difficult, but there's a lot of off-center copies of these cards, and I thought this one was really nice. You know, obviously got some rounded corners here. And then I think the primary reason this graded out a 2, I don't know if you'll be able to make it out on the video, but there's like a very light surface crease that kind of goes from the ball there down towards the left border of the card. Doesn't really detract from the overall visual appeal or beauty of this. And again, you know, the grade of PSA 2 is what made this affordable. Here's a look at the back. Just basic write-up. You know, these early Bowman cards are all about the artwork on the front. They don't have the most exciting card backs in the history of baseball cards, but wanted to show this just to illustrate that it is very clean. You can legibly read everything. There's no paper loss or glue or anything like that, which tends to be a turnoff for me. So that is the final card that I was able to get with the funds from a single Kylian Mbappe soccer card. This is one of my favorite vintage baseball cards in my entire collection. I just absolutely love that Yogi. I'm fortunate enough to have a few vintage Berras, but that is by far and away the best one that I have of him and the earliest. I think that's a third-year card. I want to say his rookie comes in the 1948 Bowman black and white set, so not too bad there. Third-year card, and I think I did pretty well. You know, I was a little bit nervous at the time, to be honest, parting with this Mbappe. I started having second thoughts like, you know, what if this guy becomes the next Ronaldo or Messi? And this is a card that, you know, I'm selling now. If memory serves, I think I recouped about $800 for that card. That Mbappe card, $750, $800, somewhere in that range. And I remember thinking to myself, what if he becomes Ronaldo and this becomes a $2,000 card someday? Well, I regret this, but I really don't. And in fact, you know, nobody has a crystal ball. I'm certainly not a Nostradamus of cardboard, but what I can tell you is in the year and a half since I sold that Mbappe card, the soccer market has really dipped dramatically. So I'm not sure what that exact card is worth now, but I'm quite confident based on the other Mbappes that I own that it's probably worth a good deal less than I hauled in for it. And then, you know, at the same time, in the year and a half since I made this, you know, swap, these 5 vintage cards, as all big, you know, slabbed vintage cards have done, have just absolutely taken off in value. So at least at this point, you know, a year or two past the flip, it certainly looks like I made a wise move. We'll see what the future holds. You know, if Mbappe becomes the next real deal and the best player in the world over the next 2 decades, you know, maybe at some point in the future I end up regretting this, but I think it's unlikely, and I don't think I'd regret it anyway, because I'm enjoying these 5 cardboard slabs here of legendary players, you know, way more than I would in Mbappe. And at the end of the day, he's an unknown. This guy is still in his early 20s and has a lot left to prove. He's barely even been playing for the last few months. He's unhappy with his current club, and it looks like he'll be traded during the January transfer window, most likely, coming up. So there's a lot of unknowns there. Whereas the 5 slabs that I brought back in return, there is nothing unknown about these guys. I think, you know, collectively, if I've done my math, you know, appropriately and done my basic research, you know, I believe there are 20 championships and 13 league MVP awards, you know, between these 5 gentlemen that I flipped for. And, you know, all that for a guy who's in his early 20s, and you just don't know what could happen with. So very satisfied with that flip. I hope you all enjoyed following along here on this series of videos. Hope you enjoyed the 5th and final card in the flip. Certainly appreciate all of your support and that you took a few minutes of your day to stop by and check out some of my baseball cards. And I will be back in the very near future with a lot more sports card content. Until then, take care, everybody.